we are jumping into the part I think everybody's been waiting for. We're gonna add some cool details to this lure. Now, I've loaded back in the twitch bait design that we liked the most during our testing, which had that little bitty chamber in here. And I went along the timeline here at the bottom, right? This is where we ended up. And we don't want to start adding details here because we want to work smarter, not harder. So we're gonna bring it back to before we started really chopping up this lure, doing all the mirroring, doing all the combining and all that stuff. And that's where we're gonna add our details. Let's go. All right, so I think I want to come back all the way basically before that eyeball gets in there. So sometimes this is tricky because you have to move stuff around, right? So my eyeball comes in here, but I combined all the bodies back together at this step. And what I want is, I want the bodies combined, but I don't want the eyeball there. So let me show you a little trick you can do. I'm gonna come up to this, past this fillet area here. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna drag it to there, okay? Now what I've done is I've switched these things around. So I'm actually combining the body here and then I take the eyeball out there. And so what I can do now is come in here and I'm at the point I want to. Now, I just caution about moving things too dramatically around the timeline. You can really mess things up, but usually if the steps are not dependent on another step that you're getting them out of order, it'll work just fine. Just use caution. All right, so now I'm here. I don't have my eye in there, which is cool. And we're ready to go. So what I wanna do is I wanna create a sketch on this plane, on the face of the body, sorry, not on the plane. Okay, and I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna make an offset. I'm gonna select the outline of the lure body and I'm gonna offset in probably like -4, -0.4. Just slightly, trying to keep everything inside that body because we're gonna be doing some extrudes and we don't want to come outside the boundaries of this object because we're gonna extrude from object. You'll see. Okay, that's good. All right, now I can actually turn off that. So I just have this sketch. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mainly focus on the head section first. And I like to start by kind of defining the back boundary, you know, how far down the lure that head section goes. And then I'll add my details in there. And I've been getting into kind of a more angular head design. So I'm popping back on this body and I just know my eye is kind of right here in this front section here. So I just wanna keep that in mind because I want the eyeball to be inside the head. And I'm just gonna go super simple here and make that kind of section there, okay? And then we're gonna start adding our details here. And again, guys, this is all about art and making what you wanna make. So don't get too hung up on the way I'm doing it here today. It's just kind of a phase I'm in. Angular gill plates. Yeah, deal with it. You can, of course, make these any shape you want. They can be rounded. They can be, you know, whatever, bro. It's all you, man. And if you're following along at home, you know, I would just kind of chill out for a bit till you see kind of what we're gonna do, because it will make much more sense, I think, once you see how we're gonna use these things. All right, I'm gonna keep them big and chunky. I don't like to put like super tiny little details in my lure designs, but if you do, you know, you can go absolutely crazy here. But again, I'd suggest you watch my process before you get too crazy. All right, let's put a mouth on. I don't usually do mouths, but let's just add one for the fun of it. Can I make one that looks scary? Probably not. I'm not good at that stuff. But we're staying with an angular pattern. Okay, that looks good. Let's add a fin here. We're gonna go super basic. Okay, again, keeping it simple, bro. And then I'm gonna do a lateral line. So this lateral line does a couple of things. One, it's gonna be part of the design on the lure body, and I'm also going to use it to split the lure when I start to do the body details. All right, fit point spline here, there to there, and give it just a little bit of a curve. You can do whatever you want to here, right? It's your lure, bro. You do you. All right, now I should have labeled my eye sketch in here somewhere. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, there it is. So I can see where my eye is gonna be. And that looks okay-ish. We'll give it a roll. All right, now we can finish sketch and we're gonna extrude. So I'm gonna hit the E key on my keyboard and we're actually going to extrude all of these sections in the head area first. Again, this is where adding too many details can really drive you crazy. All right, got all of those sections done. So there's two ways you can approach this. If you want to create a kind of separate shape from the main lure shape for your head, you can extrude this from the profile plane. And I'll show you what that does real quick. So if I extrude this out, I just grab this, move it over, and I want to do a new body. We're going to do a new body on a lot of stuff. And so what I kind of look for here, and it's kind of difficult to see, is you want to keep it roughly in the same nose width here. We have some play since we made a new body to change that angle of this. And so this is a not super scientific way to do things. So you just kind of have to guess here. You know, you don't want to go way out here probably, but you want to kind of go somewhere in betweenish, if you will. Okay, but let me show you the other thing to do. The other way to do it is instead of profile plane, do object and select this object. Now look, what that does is it keeps all of the curvature of the body. Let me see if I can get a good angle here. So we keep the curvature of the body and the relative shape. And obviously, you know, we don't want it to be that big. You usually want it to be, oh man, you kind of have to play with it, but usually not much more than 1. Now we have to do negative because we drew on this face back here. If we drew on the plane, this would actually be a positive number. So, you know, you can kind of tell when you're doing it if it's going the right way or the wrong way, but just want to let you know. Okay, so now we have this kind of little guy here. And one thing that this method gets you that's a little bit funky is this edge up here, but we can take care of that. I'll show you how. And the most important thing here is the new body. All right, now I have this body 59. I'm gonna rename it to head because that'll make it easy later. Okay, now let me show you something that I learned recently that kind of blew my mind. If we click the move copy and we select faces, you can actually select this face right here. You select the top view, grab this and move this around. That's pretty cool, bro. And that's really why we made this a new body. If we would have joined it together at that point, you would run into all kinds of problems at this point. So you can't go too far past where it starts to crush this edge right here. And what I mean by, let's turn off the main body here. So this front edge can't go past itself, right? It can't fold over itself. Fusion doesn't like when that happens, and it won't kind of adjust, if you will. Like what I would want to happen is it just keeps collapsing and moving up the seam and doesn't fail. It just gets to a certain point and stops.
Officer Rabbit and I are going to stand here while you three smoke the whole bag.
And so what this does is now we've widened the back, we've flattened down the front, and we say okay. And it gets this edge much, much closer. And again, we have room to play with this, so don't freak out yet. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to turn back on our, actually, you know what I want to do is I want to rename this to details because that will help us later. And we want to turn that sketch back on and we can turn off our body sketch. And now we start building the gill plate section. So we're going to hit E for extrude. And I like to start kind of at the ones closest to the front of the bait. So we'll select this one. Let's see, actually let's select this one and this one. Actually, let's do this whole, let's make this one section there. Okay, again, where if you made a bunch of little ones, it gets tricky. And then we're gonna go from object, we're gonna select this object and our distance is going to be, so you wanna kind of have a stair step and the ones closest to the front of the lure, you want them lower and as we go back, they get a little higher. So this is probably gonna be negative 0.4. Okay, and you can see they just come out from there. And we actually want to make these new body again. And I'll show you why in a sec. And remember that 0.4. And now we're just going to keep on going down the line. So we have these sections here in this section. Okay, we're going to do object, select this object, and let's do negative 0.06 maybe, and do new body. We'll say okay. You can see where we're going. So we have these kind of lower sections that I did here, and then these new bigger sections here. All right, so we're gonna keep going. Extrude this, this, this maybe. I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, so we can come back to the front here, or the right, excuse me. Take a look at that. Okay, we already popped that one out. I think we just want to do this diamond section here, right? Not this section. Yeah, okay, so from object, select that object, and let's do negative 0.9. Yeah, that's good. We're gonna do new body, click OK. All right, so we got this little section here. That's this guy, right? That I forgot to do. Just the same process. Extrude, object, negative 0.85, new body. All right, so let's make it a little bit easier. Okay, now I have all of these bodies over here. And the reason we made them new bodies is to make this part a little bit easier. And I'm gonna come in here and if I turn off my head section and I grab this edge, I'm gonna hit fillet and maybe 0.5. Just round these edges over at least the leading edge here, right? The edge that's closest to the bait, right? Kind of just like that. And you could obviously do this on all of these other edges if you want to. Because they are individual bodies, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to do this. If this was all one big joined body, Fusion gets super confused because you have too many surfaces involved in all kinds of wackiness, bro. So let's not do that. Okay, and I actually think what I'm gonna do is, I like this. I kind of like that little missing section in there. I think it's cool. And I'm actually just gonna combine all of these guys together, join them, don't wanna keep tools, and we're gonna call this gills. Okay, so we turn back on our head, there's the head, and we turn back on the tutorial twitch. That's what we're looking like now, right? Not too bad, not too bad. Okay, pretty cool, pretty cool. Why am I talking like that? It's ridiculous. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's do an easy one here. Let's turn back on our details. Let's extrude, do this guy. We're gonna go from object, see a pattern coming here, and we're gonna do -0.7. So if you haven't figured out yet, I think I didn't make it clear at the beginning, that distance is how far out from the body this particular feature is going to be. It's up to you how big or small you want to make it, obviously, but that's what this is for. All right, we want to make a new body again and click OK. All right, and then we're going to angle this out just like we did before with our move command, faces, select this face, and just give it a little bit of a tweak. And so, you know, you can play with this all day long. So let's keep it about here. All right, I think that looks good. And then one other thing you can do that we can't do if we join these together is I can actually go to move bodies, select this, and just kind of bump it back into the lure a bit more, right? And so I can even have finer control over how I want this to look. I mean, that's the most boring fin ever, but you get the idea. All right, and let's see how this mouth looks now. Like I said, I'm pretty terrible at mouths. I don't do a lot of mouths. We're gonna do object, select our head here, -0.5 maybe. Oh, we ran into a problem there because ran into a bit of a problem because this head section actually got shrunken in, and so this outline is outside that head section. So we can solve that pretty easily later though, so we're gonna skip this step right now. So that's one of the problems you can run in with this technique, but again, it's easily solvable. It's just more of a sequencing issue. All right, so now we got our head on there. This is pretty far out actually. What you can do is do move bodies, select the head and the gills together and move them all in there. That looks pretty good. We're gonna change the top here, I think, still as well, but take your time, figure out what you want this to look like and just kind of move it into place. So it might be hard to see, but there's this little kind of edge here that flows back. That's the original part of the lure kind of taking over. And so I still got plenty of stuff out there. I'm good there, click OK. So now we have kind of a much more natural fade in, if you will, okay? Now I think we're at a point where we should combine the gills together with the head to make that all one piece. And so we just combine head, gills, join, don't keep tools, click OK. Just gonna label the fin. So now we have our head, which has our gills on it, separate body from this main body here. So what I want to do is, I don't really like this, the way it wraps up here. So the bottom actually came out okay. I'm not too terrible with that. That looks all right, but I don't like this up here. So the quick and dirty way to get rid of that is just to create a sketch on this plane, and we're just going to draw a line. It goes about right there, okay? Again, it's art, people. Finish sketch, then we're going to use the split body command. We're going to split this body. We're going to use this tool and click OK. Okay, so now I have head 1, which is the main head, and the top half. So if I just hide this body, bring our tutorial twitch back on, you can see now that kind of fades in a little better, right? So you can adjust that however you want. You could use a curve splitting tool if you want to. Anyway, it works, right? Or you could leave it like it was before. Totally up to you, bro. All right. That fin's really pathetic, but okay. So now let's get back to our mouth. Let's add the details, sketch back in, hit the extrude button, click this, and we're going to go, let's hide the head thing here, from object, boom. Again, let's just say -0.5 maybe? Oh no, we don't want -0.5, we actually want 0.5, don't we? Bruh. Duh. And we do want that to cut, and then we just want to be done. All right, that's pretty ghetto, bro. But you get the point. If you wanted to, you could get in here and fine tune your sketch. You can go back to your details sketch and edit it. And then basically you just add a line maybe here to there. And then when we go to our extrude, we'll just edit feature, and we want to make sure that we unselect that bottom part, select that, click cut, okay. All right, that almost looks like an eyeball, but you get the point, right? We can just cut it out from there and we're good. So I don't know if you can tell, but in here we have, see how it's kind of shaded? We actually have the head thing poking through. So when you come over here, objects to cut, pull that down and you can see all the things that the profile actually goes through. And we actually want it to cut that head section as well, right? And so you can use this to only cut certain parts. It's pretty powerful once you get used to using it. I apologize, that's a terrible, terrible mouth. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I'm actually going to combine the main body. So I'm gonna turn off our fin and turn off our head for now. And we're gonna split the head off and we're gonna split the body into multiple pieces to add our other details. So if we click back on this sketch and we click split body, click that body, my splitting tools are gonna be this outside drawing edge here, right? And click OK. All right, so now we can turn that off. So we got the main head of the lure out of the way. And we're gonna split it again. This body, the split tool is gonna be the lateral line we put in there, and click OK. And we wanna get that detail sketch out of the way, and then we wanna figure out what's what here. Okay, that's the bottom. So I just rename that Twitch bottom and Twitch top. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to do a hatch pattern across these guys. So I want the bottom to be just these lines going that way, and then on the top, we're gonna do the hatch. So we can start by just having the bottom. We're gonna make a sketch, and I want the lines going from angle front to back here. So you just wanna start them, make sure they're long enough. You want them to go over, right? And I think I wanted a 45-degree angle. Move them back to before. We're gonna create a rectangular pattern. We're gonna go all the way past the end. And how many we need is kind of up to you, right? The lines represent where these hatch marks are gonna go. So you can add more, you can add less, you can do you. All right, click on OK, and we finish sketch. Now it gets a bit tedious. Now we're gonna create another sketch on that plane. We're gonna create a project to surface, faces, this face. The curves are all these lines along vector, and for projection direction, you want this back and forth, okay? And you can see it's working because you have these red lines where hopefully you want these kind of cutouts to be, all right? And you can ignore the warning, it's just because we drew over the face, but we want to make sure that we had all of the body covered. Okay, click OK and finish sketch. All right, so now we can turn off this sketch, and the easiest way I found to do this is actually a little bit of a hack. We go to create form, create pipe. I like to change this global diameter first. We'll do, let's say 0.5 millimeters in the path. Just left select all of those guys, and we got ribs. Okay, so click OK and click finish form. Now, you'll see here I got a bazillion bodies here. Oops, I made a mistake, sorry. Let's edit this again and edit the pipe. Okay, so I messed up right there because I got a little too excited and didn't close my pipes. So the end we want to be, spikes are fine, spikes or square. It doesn't really matter. Then we want our mode to be round. Okay, so that looks much better. Okay, you want them closed because we don't want them to be actual bodies and not just surface bodies. So now we click OK and finish one. So we still end up with roughly the same thing, right? We end up with all of these bodies, but now what you can do is obviously if you want sticky outy ribs, you can just leave them as is and combine them together with a join, or what I'm gonna do is cut them out. So this process is the same. So I click combine, our target body is the Twitch bottom. Our tool bodies are all of these guys. So I can click one, hold down the shift key, click the other. And again, if I want sticky outy ribs, I can click join, but I want cut, and it's going to cut them all out. Oops, I need to add those other ones here. You obviously want to make sure you have all of them selected. Fusion will hate you now. All right, so once we got them all selected, we now have our hatch pattern, or just kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, scratches in this particular lure section here. So let's move on to the top. So I'm just gonna turn on the top, the right side here, looking at the right. And actually what I think I want to do here is not go all the way over the top with this hatch pattern. I just want to keep it to this part of the body, kind of the front face. I don't mind it wrapping around the bottom, right? That's because the bottom is a little bit thinner. I don't know, I'm just weird. I just don't like it wrapping around the top for some reason. Again, you do you. But what I'm gonna do is draw a sketch here on this plane, draw a fit point spline, because you know, you guessed it, man. We're just gonna chop this bad boy up. And I'm just gonna kind of follow curve here. So I'll put it there, hit the check mark, just grab this handle and just kind of work the curve. You can move this up just a hair. And we don't need to make this perfect, just kind of close enough. Well, you might need to make it perfect. I don't need to make it perfect. And again, this is all, we're just gonna use this to cut the top half of this body off because I don't want the sketch points on there. So split body, split tool, select that, click OK. And so now I have a top one and a top, hide top. Now I just have this little bitty section here. And we're gonna do basically the same thing we did with the one-way hatches, but we're gonna do it like a diamond pattern now. So we're gonna draw a sketch, this plane, I'm gonna draw a line, 45 degrees, put the angle in first, that's what I didn't do last time. So we make sure that we're all the way past. We're gonna create a rectangular pattern on this guy. Make sure we go past the end of the lure. And again, how many do we want? It would be great if I remember what I did last time, but we can make it different. We're cool like that. Click OK. Now, to make things easier for us, we're gonna actually do this in 2 separate sketches, and you'll see why in just a minute. So we're gonna finish this sketch, and we're just gonna create another sketch. And one thing I wanna do is project this whole line and that point. Click OK. We're gonna draw another line. I want it to be even with that line. We're gonna come down, my degrees are 135, which is basically 45 from 180. My other angle is 45, so we wanna keep them at the same angle. And we're gonna come all the way down again. Just wanna make sure that we're past the bottom of that body right there. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is dimension this to this, 1.5. Okay, then I'm just gonna create a rectangular pattern again. Make sure it's all the way over my body, and we do 30. We'll just do 30 for now. Again, you can play with this all day long. This is where your art comes in. Smaller, bigger hatches, whatever you want. And we're gonna click Finish Sketch. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing we did last time with our lines for our belly, but we're gonna do them in 2 steps. And I found this to be the best way to go about things, because if you try to do them all in one sketch, and use the pipe command, it tries to connect those pipes together, and you end up with like all kinds of problems with, you know, pipes not being created correctly, and it's just a mess. So I found this way, even though it's longer and more tedious, it's the best way to do it in my book. All right, so now what we wanna do is, I'm just gonna relabel these because it'll be easier. I think that's a backslash, and this is called that one forward. Okay, so let's hide the forwards, and now we're gonna create, project, to surface. Sorry, I created a sketch there. Create a sketch and then project to surface. Same thing we did last time. That's my face, these are my curves, and my vector is there. Good God, man, it's taking forever. And then it failed. All right, let's try that again. Oh, hey, hang on. That's weird, it actually worked. Okay, Fusion had a little hiccup there, but we're gonna keep moving forward. And I think I caused that hiccup because I failed to realize that I was still in the other sketch before I projected. So you should end the sketch, create a new sketch, and then project. But it recovered, so we're gonna keep going. Okay, so now that we have our projections here, we're gonna do exactly what we did last time when we created the hatches on the belly of the lure. We're just gonna do it in 2 separate steps. So we go create form, create pipe, kind of line it up so we can easily select these. I'm going to change my global diameter to 0.5, right? That's what we were. Again, remembering things you do before is helpful. Even making them a parameter so you don't have to remember them will be helpful. And we want to make sure we have square ends. Okay, click OK, finish form, and then we have a whole bunch of bodies here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, these are my backs, so I'm just going to rename this back 1, and all the way down, we're going to rename this one back, whatever, 100, or back end. Okay, you'll see why we're doing that. We're gonna go in and create our other pipes first, and then we're gonna do our cutting and removing. And so if I end up needing to keep these separate for whatever reason, the backslashes and the forward slashes, I know what my relative range is. There's probably a better way to do this, but I don't know. If you know, leave me a comment. Okay, so we actually want to hide all of these bad boys for now. We're gonna turn our forward slashes, our forward slashes back on. And we're gonna do our projection again, same thing. Create a sketch here, project a surface, select this surface, select these curves. We don't want to select that projected curve. Okay. Certain curves can be projected. We don't really care, right? That's fine. We're gonna do a long vector. Choose that. Okay, so then we got those guys on there. Select OK. It'll give me a warning about them not all being there because I selected all these. But it's cool, bro. Fusion will deal with it. It is just gonna take a while to calculate. For the life of me, I don't know why this takes so long right now. It'll get done though. All right, get a warning. That's cool. That took about 5 minutes, by the way. I got an M1 Mac. Fusion isn't the best thing to run on a Mac, but that's the way we're rolling. Okay, finish sketch. We want to do the same thing we did before. Okay, so create form. We want to make sure we turn off that other sketch because we don't need it right now. And we just want to deal with this guy. Create pipe. 0.5 in types square. All right, so now we did that, and you can see we have all of our front and back bodies here. So I'm gonna bring our back end ones, shift click all those and go to show hide. Okay, so now we have our cross pattern. And I'm gonna try to combine these together in one shot. This could fail miserably. So I click combine, target body, is of course that guy, my tool bodies. I go from back one all the way down to the end there. And my operation is cut. And I definitely don't want to keep those tools around. And there we go. Okay, now I know what some of you are saying. Hey dude, couldn't you have done that all in one shot with projecting them and creating a pipe over the crosshatch? What happens when I do that is Fusion tries to bring these sections together and make kind of one solid pipe. So you don't get this 90-degree angle for one, and two, when you get into sections like this right here, where it comes really tight, Fusion sometimes doesn't create geometry that is valid and will fail and you won't be able to get out of there. So I know this was a fairly long way to go to get some stupid crosshatch pattern, but it's really the way that I have found that has the absolute most chance for success. All right, so now what we can do is start to bring our bodies back together and you can see what we got. Now the other thing I could have done is use this original sketch down here to match these up. You know, whatever, you could do that if you want. You just have to draw your sketch longer next time. But one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to our details and we got one more thing we're gonna add. We're gonna add this lateral line in to really clean up that edge. So what we need to do first is we wanna combine all of these bodies together. So we click combine and first one you click on, it doesn't matter from a technical standpoint, but whatever you click on first is what this thing's gonna be named. So I'm just gonna call it Twitch top here. Tool bodies, Twitch bottom and Twitch top 1. We wanna make sure we are joining and we click on OK. Okay, so we're all back together. I'm just gonna actually rename this one to Twitch body. And then you guessed it, one last project. Create a sketch, back plane. I'm gonna create project to surface. The faces are all of these faces in here. There's not a great way to go about this. So just select them, bro. It's okay. You wanna make sure you're only selecting the flat ones there, okay? The curves are this guy, and a long vector, select one going across there. And you can see I got my red line right there. Okay, click OK. And wait again. All right guys, this is again yet another complication of doing scales and whatever you want to call these hatch lines this particular way, right? When we went and selected all of those faces to do our projection on, what we end up with is a line that is in like a bunch of different parts. So you can see that it has all these different segments. So we can't use our pipe command. That would just be too easy now, wouldn't it? So we have to again go back into the forms editor, create the pipe, select all of these bad boys here. And again, choose your size. We want to make sure it's square ending. As you can see when we get in here that we have these gaps and that's where like the cross hatches came across. Let's bring our Twitch body back and same deal. We're just going to combine Twitch body, tools, all these little guys here, and we're going to cut. Not exactly the cleanest thing in the world, but it looks fine. It's fine. It's all fine. Okay, so you can see why I don't like to make like a lot of super fine detailed hatches. You certainly can, it just is gonna take you a while and it's gonna really put a lot of strain on your computer. But you do you, bro. All right, so we can bring back the fin. You can see the fin goes over the top as we hit it while I was going, that's good. What do we want? Head 1 here. Oh, we got head and that head part. Yeah, that looks good. And this old tutorial Twitch part, which was our original head, okay? And that actually looks like an eyeball, doesn't it? That's not good. All right, and then we want to do is combine all these back together. So tutorial twitch is the name of my deal. Tutorial twitch is what I want it to end up being called. And then my tool bodies are all this stuff here that's visible. And we of course want to join it all back up and click OK. And there we go. We are all done. Now you can come in here and you can get a little bit cooler if you want, clean up these things, probably delete that. All right, we can delete this face if we want to. Sorry, I went back before that combine, and I'll come in here and look at that part. Actually, I don't want to combine that part. My bad, bro. All right, so let's go forward, edit this feature, and my selections. I want this, and that. I want those three, not that other one. Sorry. Okay, and there we go. Pretty cool looking, except for the stupid mouth, bro. No me gusta. Okay, I just suppressed that mouth because it was bothering me. You can do better, I know you can. So now that we went back in time on the timeline, right? We pulled that bad boy back to add in all these extra steps. And if we did everything right, we should be able to pull forward in the timeline and get back to where we were before this whole thing started. Bro. We got a few problems. This is pretty normal, and I'll show you where we go and fix this. So you can kind of see what's going on here. The eye didn't extend out past where this bump was. So the easiest thing to do there is just to knock that out. And we want to do that before we do our mirror. And then we can go back and just find the sketch with that eyeball on it, which is this body section sketch. Turn that back on, hit E for extrude, grab that circle and just come all the way out with a cut. Okay, and that'll cut that hole back open for us. Click OK. We destroyed a little bit of our work, but it'll still look cool. And now we can pull forward, wait. Another fillet error again here. Let's see. Okay, that's on this edge here. Okay, so the problem is really because this is now combined with this body. And you can see I had my fillet after I added my combined. So the easy way to fix this is just pull this combine. Actually, what we can do is let's just delete that fillet, pull my timeline here. Fillet 0.1, I think is what we were before. Add that fillet in there, and then go to combine. So remember I mentioned earlier about things getting kind of weird and out of whack? That's one of those situations. Okay guys, I know that's not the most amazingly beautiful lure you've ever seen, but the concepts are the same, right? It's just how much of an artist and how much time you want to spend. That's up to you to decide, right? I find that, you know, the fish don't really care, dude. They don't. I know you want to make stuff like this, but the fish don't care. So we're going to go ahead and print this and I'll show you the results. Hey guys, that turned out pretty friggin' cool. I hope you liked that episode. I know it was long. Thanks for hanging in there. Next up, we're gonna talk about adding crankbait lips when you're making crankbaits and the specific steps I go to for designing them and implementing them. And that video will be right here. Take care, tight lines.